No, I
Yeah, I've
really
been
like
what?
your page.
Oh,
Since I
thanks. Yeah.
discovered it on Instagram, I really like it. It also has like a good, super nice energy around it. You know
Hey, I
what I
appreciate
mean?
it.
It's super
Oh,
nice. So
oh, I
when you
appreciate
asked
it.
me, I was like, yeah, because I'm a fan of your page. So
Well, it's an honor for me. I mean, just to have you on. I mean, I'm so impressed by you and your career and your playing. So it's amazing. And I mean, you and your brother are both world class. I mean, how does that happen? I just wanted to ask that first off. I mean, how were you raised? It's an amazing story.
actually, our parents are both musicians, and it's thanks to them. My mom, she invented actually a music method called El Mago Diapason,
Uh,
which is now being translated to English, actually, which is great because it will be available for so many more kids. So the method is from 0 until 7 years old, and our mom created it to teach music to my brother Pablo. So it's about, hearing, perfect pitch. We were able to read music before we could read a book. So that base of music, we had it really early on, and we started playing instruments at 4 years old. Also with my mother, she was working with us every day, her own method, and then with Suzuki method. And I think that's it. I think our parents really, really invested a lot of time on us, and we liked it. Somehow uh, my mother sticked always to our routine to work with us. So then for us, it became part of like that. We didn't know otherwise than like playing music every day. For us was like you eat, you go to school, then you play music, and then you go to sleep. It was like so natural for us in a way. And then we were lucky enough that we liked it, so we continued.
yeah. So I mean, so before you're 3 years old, I mean, we don't really have the actual nerve endings to actually play an instrument, really, right? So what are you doing before, from 0 to 2 or 0 to 3? Are you just listening, singing, things like that? I mean, how does
Ear
that
training,
ear
like
training?
ear training nonstop, which is very important, actually. I mean, some musicians don't have this ear training, and they're still amazing players. But I think it really helps in the long run to have this very strong ear training. And when you're a baby, you're just like learning everything so quick. So it's like almost no effort, when musicians try to learn ear training later on, even in their teens, it's like so hard and you have to study. But when you do it as a baby, it's like, you know, you don't remember how hard it was to speak your own language, right? So this is the same. It's like a mother tongue. That's the thing. This great thing
Yeah,
about my mother's method. It's like a mother tongue for music. Maybe that's how I would describe it. Yeah.
amazing. And so, yeah, you have the music inside, and then you just put it through the instrument, but it starts with the ear, right?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah. Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah. And since I also like to now compose in these years, I feel like this year training that I have is so helpful because in school I wasn't like the most brilliant like about theory. Like of course I know my theory, I might know my music basics and all of that, but I'm not Jacob Collier or anything like that. You know what I mean? So I feel like then I back it with my ears. They help me a lot.
And does that involve singing or testing your ear? What is this interval? What is this interval? Or is it more just singing the intervals and singing the different pitches? And does it get trained that way?
You mean we're talking about like from
Yeah.
zero
When
to
you're a
three?
kid, like ear training, Yeah.
Well, I think it's more about hearing than singing. But of course, the singing just also, of course, happens because, yeah, I will show you this really amazing video that there is of like a really little student of my mom, and she's able to sing all the notes already at such a young age. Is actually very, very impressive.
So so your mom, do you have other siblings as well? Or is it just you and your brother?
No,
Okay.
just us two.
Yeah. And you both turned out amazing. So does your mom teach it other people as well?
Yeah, she has
That method?
schools all over Spain and now Mexico and Chile.
Wow.
And Like I mentioned, she's translating the whole method to English and maybe German as well, and French, so that soon it will be like available. Because the method is already so established. It has 34 years old of practice, and she has another 2 students that are now old, like my age and my brother, and they're the sisters Cristina and Patricia. Cristina is the new violist of the Casals quartet, like one of the best string quartets in the world. So these are also like Mago Diapason students that now are like rising stars. Patricia is an amazing violinist. I believe she's doing the academy in I want to say BR Munich, but I'm not 100% sure it's that orchestra. But she's an amazing violinist, and also I feel like she has very good ears because she likes to play another genre that is not classical, and she improvises very well. So yeah, they're amazing. I love them. They're great.
Amazing. And do you continue to train your ear, or is it just, baked in? Is it kind of in there from childhood and you don't need to work on it anymore?
I think, I mean, as a teen, I didn't, but now I'm getting older, and I feel like it wouldn't hurt to maybe revisit. Sometimes, actually, this is very funny. I'm gonna tell you this. This is crazy that this happens, and I would like to know if it happens to somebody else. Because I realized that if I have a couple drinks, the next day I hear everything 1 semitone higher. This is one of the reasons also why I stopped drinking alcohol, because it started freaking me out. I was like, how is it possible that I hear everything 1 semitone higher? So, yeah.
Meaning
I
you're
feel like
perfect.
your
Meaning you normally have perfect pitch, but your perfect pitch gets adjusted a semitone higher, basically. Okay.
Yes.
So what you think is a D is a C sharp, or a C is a C sharp. In other words.
Yes, exactly.
Or vice versa, whatever. Yeah.
Yeah,
That's very interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so perfect pitch is a part of it. It is a part of your mom's training. I mean, do you think that's an important aspect of your ear, being able to hear a note and identify it?
Yes.
Yeah.
Definitely.
Mm-hmm.
I think everybody, because I think some people think that you need to be born with, an ability to be able to have perfect pitch, but this is something you really actually train, and everybody can achieve such a thing. I think that's really wonderful, because there are not so many things like that, no? Like, for so many things, you need some sort of talent. Like for, I don't know, sports or something. But this, everybody can have it if they practice it. It's like everybody can speak.
Yeah. And do you think it's possible to learn perfect pitch later in life?
Later on?
Yeah.
I think it's possible to have, there's a thing of like, how do you call it? Relative pitch. This is possible, relative. Like you're like more or less understanding what's going on. But perfect pitch, I believe you only get it as a kid, actually.
Yeah. Interesting.
It's the same actually as like if you start playing viola or violin or cello at 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, then if you start in your middle 20s, it's like,
I know.
You will probably not be able to achieve a professional career. It will be more like a hobby. But if you do it as a kid, most likely you will end up being professional. So, yeah.
So you started playing viola or violin or viola?
I started directly with viola, actually.
With viola. Okay, since 4 years old.
Yes.
And then what type of exercises were you doing at that point? I don't know if you even remember back that far, but I'm sure you can kind of, what were you starting off with, scales or just long tones, things like that? Or
I also asked my mom that because I was very curious. Of course, I don't remember anything. She said that, well, basically for her, was very important that I would start with the right posture already. Because if you start like this or like that, then the kid learns very fast. So then it's very easy that you can pick up bad habits. So I think the most important thing was to start making sure you have like a great posture, not only the torso, but the hands. Like she would start just like putting our fingers on the bow. Like before we would come to play, it comes that first, let's learn how to hold the bow. We hold the bow. There were some exercises. Oh, I wish I had my bow here so I could show it to you. But there is an exercise that you grab the bow like this, like a spider, and it's called the spider, and then you go down, and it's very good. So you get like a grip, like a, and then for the left hand, I would say the same. No playing, but also just like putting the fingers on the string one by one, just to get also the feeling. And you do that for, I don't know how long, to be honest, but I'm only assuming long until you become, somewhat familiar with it. And then it comes the playing, and it's such a slow process now that I think about it. She was so patient. You just pass the bow, open strings, and I don't know for how long. And then it's when scales, I don't think... Scales are really difficult. I don't think a kid can pull scales. I think scales are seriously hard. I think we started directly with Suzuki, because the first song of the first book is re 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 la, la, la. It's like super intuitive and easy. Scales is like you have to da 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 da.
Gotcha. So very simple melodies. And
yes.
I mean, and despite all this, I mean, you had incredible training from since you were an infant, and then the Suzuki method and all the technical training. Despite all that, did you manage to pick up any bad habits that you had to unlearn eventually, or was it all just kind of perfect, going forward?
Wow, so many bad habits, and bad habits, you can pick them anytime. Anytime. Also now, if I don't pay attention to my practice, I will pick up a bad habit. But now I'm extremely focused on my practice, which is something also I had to learn. They don't teach you for some reason. But yeah, actually bad habits are so hard to get rid of. Oh my God. When I was in Reina Sofia in Madrid, I think I picked up like a bad technique at some point of my left, because when you're very little as a kid, like 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, it starts to become very mechanic. So you don't overthink. A kid is not thinking like, oh, does this feel okay? A kid is just like doing. It's in the present. But the more you grow, the more you're like sensations, and it's easy to pick up bad habits and forget this good mechanic. So at some point, my left hand was not so great, and this amazing violist, Jonathan Brown, which was my assistant teacher in Reina Sofia, best teacher I ever had, he picked up on that, and he built my left hand from zero again. And I was able to, but I remember it was such a difficult process, and it took so long, and I felt like I didn't want to do it. I tried to like cheat my own way, like, oh, maybe I can get away with this and he won't notice. But I loved the fact that he was really invested in me. He said, no, you have to do this, because then everything will be so much easier for you and you will be able to play better. Like, he really believed that I could do it. So then I was like, okay, I will do it. And then I put in the time. And after, when it became mechanic to me, it felt so good. So I'm so thankful that he spent his time on me, because if back then you don't fix a bad habit as soon as possible, and you are so young that sometimes you don't pick it up yourself, you don't realize. If you don't cut them in time, it's so hard. I think you can always fix it, but again, the older you are, the harder it gets.
And was that a tension thing, or was that just your ability to get around the instrument was compromised because you had bad technique, or was it too much tension and he was trying to fix that?
I think, honestly, it's that at some point during practicing, I didn't pay attention.
Yeah.
I was not focused on the practice. I was just playing. And like, as a kid, you can, but then, I don't know, maybe when you're in your early teens, you're distracted.
Yeah, of course. And so, coming out of the Karajan Academy, which and you were able to play with the Berlin Phil several times. I mean, so what steered you toward a solo career rather than joining an orchestra?
It's a very good question. I think I realized in this time, although it's like one of the best orchestras in the world and it was such an inspiring time for me to be there with them, I realized that the way I practice and the way I for me is music and hearing and all of that, I cannot be my best playing inside a group. Because I don't know, in my practice since always, I always focused on, I want to hear this certain sound. And when you play in an orchestra, I have to blend with the group. Like it's so specific and so it's like amazing, but in another direction. And for me, it was more concentrated in this one voice rather than blending with a group. And I think it's mainly that's the reason why I don't play in an orchestra. It's literally the only reason, because it's actually really cool to be part of something. You play with a group. If you're good at it, it's amazing. The repertoire is incredible. You're playing with people all the time, which is good if have good relationship with your colleagues, of course. But if you're a soloist, you're all the time alone. It's nice. I like to be alone, but it's lonely, it's very lonely, like from practicing to like touring and everything. So, but everything has its pros and its cons, honestly, like orchestra also pros and cons and so everything. I guess nothing is perfect.
So that's just how you hear music, really, as a solo.
Yes,
yeah.
That's how I knew that I just had to go that way, because it was the most natural way for me, to be honest, since a kid. So
yeah. And how many? I mean, I'm. What's it like being a viola soloist? Because that's the tough road, because there are a ton of violinists, but I can't think of too many viola soloists. I know your teacher is one, right? Tabea Zimmerman. But besides her, maybe there's a few more. But what does that look like? What does that kind of career look like? Is that a lot more difficult to kind of cut through?
For sure, yes. At the moment, I mean, also if we think about it, also the cello at some point wasn't as soloistic as the violin considered back then. So now the viola sort of is, but because there's like being more violists that play amazing, like Timothy Ridout, for example. And I think it's sort of happening naturally just because the violists are just good, which is amazing. However, of course, we do not have the amount of repertoire that a violin has, like no way. But we do have like a couple very nice pieces, like the Walton Concerto I love to perform. Joseph Schubert Concerto is really nice as well. Reminds me of an opera. I recently played the Schumann Cello Concerto on the viola. It was such a big test for me because I arranged it for viola myself. I just took the cello score and figured it out somehow. I really wanted to make it work because I loved the piece. And I said, if I can incorporate this to my repertoire, I'll be so, fulfilled as a musician, because it's such a great music. And I was very afraid that, on stage in the concert, I wouldn't feel good or free or like convinced about what I'm doing. It was a test, honestly. And I was for months preparing so much for this. And actually, I had the best time of my life on this concert. I had the best. I don't know how I played. I don't know if people liked it, but for me personally, I had the best time on stage, which means like I'm totally gonna incorporate this piece to my repertoire. And I really want to play the Schnittke Viola Concerto, which I haven't played, but there's a recording of Nobuko Imai that is unbelievable. It's a really, really cool concerto. What else is cool? Bartok I've never played. I don't know if I like it.
How long is the Walton, by the way?
23 minutes, 24, 25. Minutes. It's not so long. Oh, Martinu is a great concerto as well. It's fun.
And what's the longest one that you can think? Is there a really long one, like 40 something minutes or? that you play that's in your repertoire?
Well, Joan Andrea is quite long, but I don't know if it's like on the 40s. Maybe it's on the half an hour, and I don't know, to be honest, how long is Schnittke. Oh, what is 40 minutes actually is something I'm about to play for the first time this month, which is Harold in Italy, Berlioz. It's not really like a viola concerto, but it sort of is because it has a lot of solos. It's symphony with principal viola soloist, like maybe like Don Quixote for cello would be this for us, let's say.
Yeah. And what are you thinking about during these performances? I mean, these are long pieces and you're up there all by yourself. Are you thinking just music and sound? Are you thinking technique at all when you're up there?
I try, so all of my practicing and all of my training daily is to be so focused on technique that when I'm on stage, I don't have to think about it. Because if you get on concerts, on live performance, if you get too caught up about your technique, I think that's very fragile stage of mind to be.
You're vulnerable to mistakes more in that sense, right? When you're thinking about technique and
and then it's all about having a strong mind in the moment, which also I train on my daily basis outside of my instrument as well. Like going to the gym is very important to me. Doing Pilates and having like a healthy lifestyle is super important. To be disciplined in that way, and then that discipline really helps you when you're on stage. Like suddenly, when you have control over your thoughts, which you have to practice a lot with meditation also and stuff. If you are like in a vulnerable moment where you're not feeling so good performing, like there's a difficult passage coming, or suddenly you feel a little bit insecure, then you have to have the very strong mind to like immediately remove that thought of the equation. And then, just I feel like I'm going so much into nerd stuff.
And just get back into the music, basically. So it's like,
you just want to be in the present, I just want to be in the present when I play. I want to be in the present moment completely and enjoying the music, not only of my instrument, but my instrument with the orchestra and then with the conductor. I think if you have a very good conductor, there's this magic that happens that you are like doing chamber music with the conductor and the orchestra. This is a dream concert, honestly. And this is what happened with me with Schumann and the other day playing with orchestra. So, that's
great.
Amazing.
And are you thinking more emotion, more sound, or more story,
For sure, emotion and sound. Yeah, emotion and sound combined.
And that's ideal. And then when you think technique, you try to get back to that with emotion and the sound.
Technique, what I do is I try to this is gonna sound so easy, but make myself feel good, just like posture, which I already train at the gym or doing Pilates. When I walk in the street, just have good posture, because when you have a good posture, suddenly you just feel better. I mean, it's how it is. So good posture, breathing is super important. Breathing from your tummy, like being able to control your breathing when you play. Sometimes, I think when I was a teenager, I didn't know if I was breathing or not. Like your breathing is a mess and it messes up your whole performance, because if your muscles are also not getting enough oxygen, then your body tenses, so you need to breathe in order for like have some flow. It's a whole thing going on, but this goes more automatic now on stage. Like I'm just briefly thinking about these things. I'm not like, oh my God, this I do every day on my practice. I overthink on my practice so that I can let go on my performances.
Okay. And do you have to practice emotion and when you practice, and during in the practice room, or does it take care of itself with the technique?
Look, I'm going to be very honest. I think everybody's different. I'm going to tell you what I think. I think I'm much better at my musicality and putting emotions into my music. That happens much more naturally than my technique. So I don't have to think about that part. I feel like that part is the easiest for me because I just do it like how I feel it, and I don't feel like I don't need to overthink that. So I would work more on my technique then. I think, yeah, some people have incredible technique, like flawless. Oh, I don't.
I don't know about that, but so some people need to work on more on emotion in the practice room, but maybe
Yeah,
you not
that's
so
true.
much. Yeah.
Yeah, it's also, everybody's different.
And when you're preparing your technique, what does that look like? Is that slow practice, fast practice, a mix of both? What does that look like?
Definitely mix of both. I like to start slow, very slow, but I don't stay slow for too long. Maybe I switch already past 5 or 10 minutes. I'm already on medium tempo, because if I'm in shape, I just feel better. If I didn't practice for a couple of days because I don't know, it's Christmas or I flew overseas, then I spend more time on the slow side.
And what does slow practice look like? What are you doing with slow practice? Are you just concentrating on relaxing and hitting every note correctly in the right spot? Just that
I
kind of thing.
concentrate on, again, the feeling of right posture and breathing, feeling good, positive, and I do some scales, couple scales, and then maybe I start with a passage from a concerto, one of the most difficult ones, just to see. So, for example, now I would start with the second movement of the Walton, which is technically challenging for violists. So I would start with that very slowly to see how it feels, and I would sort of feel the time of the warm up, and then I just play some passages through. Yeah.
And if you're learning something new that's very technically difficult, a new piece, for example, and you're practicing it slow, how do you know when you can speed up?
That's a good question. That happened today, actually. That I had that you asked with Bach. Although the suites I play them since I'm a kid, but when you don't practice Bach for a long time, it's always tricky. You cannot play it. At least I cannot play it how I want it to sound at the correct speed. So I think, honestly, you know when to speed it up because you just feel it. It just happens. You're more than, I'm going to actively do it faster. I mean, there are sometimes like that, but usually when you decide with your mind, you're not ready for it.
Okay.
But when you're playing and then it happens that you just start playing fast because you can. Then it's because you really can. And then you realize, oh, I'm playing fast. It's because I can.
Okay. Because you're not stressed anymore. It's like, yeah, you can, and you just go.
It happens naturally. You're. How do you know when you're ready? I don't know.
Yeah. I think a lot of people, they try to speed up too quickly, and then you get stressed out about it, and then you build tension into your playing, right? That can happen.
Again, bad habits of practicing as well. I feel like you have those mostly in your studying era, unless you have an amazing teacher, which is like really on top of you.
Yeah. Great. I just wanted to ask you about tone. So your tone is incredible. Do you have to work on tone, or does it just come naturally from inside your head?
Tone is, you mean by tone like the
Like
sound?
just the quality of your sound, like dark, people say dark, bright, different things like that. You have a unique tone. I mean,
Thank you.
can you work on that, or is it just a natural thing that just comes out?
I work on it. I work on it for sure. I have an idea of how I want it to sound in my head exactly. Like I just know. So I just I work on it until it comes in my ear, into my head. It's like, okay, this is exactly how how I want it.
So how do you work on it? Do you just listen for it and then you adjust when it's not quite right, or are there any other exercises?
I try to recognize when I play something what it needs. If I'm playing on the C string and I'm lacking, I want the sound to be more relaxed, but really on the string, then because I want it to sound more round and more warm, then I know that I just need to like go more relaxed. My arm, not necessarily pressing actively, but finding the way that like it just goes. So again, breathing helps, good posture helps. Then the angle of the viola, I turn it a little bit this way. Maybe with my shoulder, I go a little bit more this way. Maybe I try to think of this like part of the body to be, it's a whole thing, and all of this for sound,
Uh-huh. Amazing.
Yeah, endless possibilities. But then you should really have like 2 or 3 that this will work.
Uh-huh.
This I discovered maybe in the last year. I think is where I really cracked some sort of code that works for me. But the thing is that maybe if I tell you what I do, it will not work for you because you have a different body, It's really crazy. It's really crazy, these things. That's why it's so difficult to teach, not music, but playing.
Yeah. And how do you get your ideal tone in your head? Is it just listening to recordings and thinking about what you like? How does that work?
No, I did used to listen to a lot of recordings when I was a kid, but now I don't listen to a recording and I say, oh, I want that sound. I feel like when it comes to recordings, I listen to everything and I try to get the inspiration, but I never feel like I want to copy anyone, which I think is good because I just have a certain personal taste of how my sound I wanted to sound like. And yeah, it just, for me, it's very important to be, the sound to be clean. I always try to be as clean as possible, not in the playing itself, but in I don't know, there's not clean technically. It's not that important for me, but in the tone, like you say. Yeah, now I understand.
No scratchiness or anything.
Yeah,
That viola.
exactly.
Yeah. And yeah, interesting. Yeah, so when you play, it's just basically you're thinking sound and then it comes through the viola. It's almost like the viola has to get out of the way in a sense, like, and just be a vehicle for the sound that's already in your head. So it's not, the viola isn't the source, inside your head is the source, and then it just comes out through your head.
Totally,
Yeah.
totally. Wow, you described it in such a cool way. I love that.
Well, that's fascinating, and but like you said, you really have to work a lot on technique to get to that place, right? Because you need to open the door. The technique opens the door, right?
Yeah,
So
exactly. You're so
yeah,
right.
yeah, yeah. And I was gonna ask, do you ever get nervous on stage?
I always get nervous before
Really?
concert. Always, every time.
Always? Wow.
Always. Actually, one time I wasn't nervous, but I was uncomfortable. And I hated that performance, how I played. So,
You were too comfortable.
yeah, I
Uh-huh.
was like chilling. And then
Wow.
I had worse time on stage. I hated every minute being there. So then actually being nervous doesn't scare me anymore because it's just part of it, And I know it's just, it doesn't dictate, doesn't necessarily mean that I'm gonna have a bad performance. Um, yeah,
Yeah.
it's just
So
about changing your relationship with that, which takes a while.
would you describe nervousness as fear, or those are two different things? Are you afraid on stage, or is it more, just excited?
Such a good question. That's such a great question. They're very different things, I would say. I think fear and being nervous, because being nervous just, I think it's a very human, natural body response of like something that is about to happen, Sometimes I get randomly nervous, like if I get scared in my own apartment, like that emotion. But fear is serious, and fear can stay with you for so long. You know what I mean? And it's about changing your relationship with the fear. I feel like it's fascinating. This fascinates me. I don't know why, but it really does. So I think you need to have a good relationship with your fear, like healthy, like not have this, like putting yourself down. None of that helps with, I don't want to say controlling your fear, but managing your fear, because fear is almost impossible to control, I'd say. Don't you think?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And so accepting the fear, dealing with it, like welcoming it. Yeah.
It's just there, and because it's just
Yeah.
there. But sometimes, like it's completely okay. You know what I mean? Like that doesn't mean that I'm not gonna be able to do the thing and have a good time and maybe have the best experience of my life. You know, it's just there.
Is it like
Yeah.
kind of like a roller coaster? Like you're afraid, but you do it anyway because it's going to be fun and exciting, you know? In a way.
Yeah, and honestly, I think I have a little bit of an addiction to this feeling, this mixture of like, oh, what am I doing this to myself? You know, when you're so nervous, and and then finding finding that moment where you are really on the present, on stage, delivering like this, like magic, and then there's a phrase that comes, and then you enjoy it, and then everything feels amazing. This like maybe like 5 seconds, but that's amazing. So yeah, I think you become addicted to pursue that, you know. So, and sometimes it doesn't happen. Sometimes you can be playing so good at concert, like everything works, but you don't get that, like, wow, you know, this energy for 5 seconds for yourself, which I think the audience, I think they feel it. I'm completely convinced they feel it. When this happens, it's really amazing.
So that edge, that little bit of nervous tension, that can take you to another level.
Yeah, I think
Mm-hmm.
it's necessary. Honestly, I think it can help you for sure. In sound, also, I used to be so afraid of it because, you know, if you're too nervous, it's more difficult to control your bow, the shakiness of the bow. And when you're very young, this really like can mess with your head. I feel like when you're studying. Now I don't really care because I know how to use it for my advantage, and I know that like you can barely hear it. So probably the person that is 1.5 meters from me doesn't even hear it. So it's just about like let go and get over yourself a little bit, you know.
So when you were younger, perhaps the nervousness would impact your playing, meaning your bow would shake and it would just be too much. You could actually hear it in the sound, but you've learned to deal with it, so it doesn't impact your performance, but it only takes you to another level. I mean,
Yes,
yeah.
exactly.
I mean, how does that work? Is that just your technical training? Your technique is just so good that it's not impacted by getting nervous?
I think this is my mental training, 100%.
Mm-hmm.
The discipline of the mental, of removing yourself from putting yourself down, just like build positive. I think that's what it is.
What does that mental training look like? Is that a daily thing for you?
Yeah, for sure. But I do it
Mm-hmm.
with everything in my life. Like, you know, but everybody, like, keep your house clean takes discipline. To clean, to cook, discipline, you know? Like, to a certain level, to go every day to the gym, to do everyday Pilates, discipline, to eat clean, like, you know, nothing bad for you, only like veggies and this and that, and protein, and all of that is like discipline. So you become this person that also in your practice is, I think every musician is super perfectionist in a way. I'm sure you are too, right? Like when you practice, it's like, I want this to be so perfect. So that's also a form of discipline. So yeah, What was your question?
Yeah.
Sorry, I feel like I go somewhere
Well,
else.
does the discipline give you confidence? On
Yes,
stage, it gives you positive. The discipline gives you positivity.
100%. And you have to be confident. You just have to, and you train your confidence every day. And also, I mean, the most difficult, to be honest, is like, because everybody has bad days. And when you're having a bad day, you're a little bit down, you're tired, you didn't sleep, you didn't eat good, like it happens a lot when you're on the road. And then it's this discipline to be like, okay, I'm not feeling my best. I'm slept for hours. I feel like, wow, I'm not in shape, but I'm still gonna be confident and pull this off. That takes a lot of discipline. And I take that very seriously. Like sometimes when I'm like all over the place, I go and I look myself in the mirror and I said, you can do this. And that's it. And I leave and I'm like confident, but that's it. Yeah.
So training your brain every day, but it's also through the discipline where you get the confidence, because like you're not lying to yourself. You say you're going to do something and then you do it, right? And that kind of builds your confidence. Yeah.
Exactly. Be honest with yourself. You can do it, you can really do it. If you, and especially if you did it already, then you can do it again. That's actually really cool. What's difficult is when you start, the first time you play with an orchestra ever. People don't talk a lot about this, because when you play a lot, then you get used to it. And when you have performing experience, you are so confident in a way. But imagine you're in your, I don't know, teens or early 20s, and you're going to play first time with orchestra, first time you play the piece, so many first times, and so many things you don't know, and so many things a teacher doesn't tell you how to perform. They tell you how to play, how to practice this, how this should sound, but nobody shows you how to perform. What is the best fit position when you stand? Is it better to be closer to the conductor? Is it better to be farther from the conductor? You know what I mean? There's so many things. So
Yeah. And all these great musicians that you're playing with constantly and you're around all the time, do you know anybody that doesn't get nervous?
actually, yes, I do. And I think it's the only, and I always ask him, but really, really? And I really believe he's telling the truth. It's my friend Mohamed Iber. We talked about this so many times because I'm so fascinated by the fact that he doesn't get nervous. He says, I go on stage and it's like, I walk like in my house, and I'm like, for me, it couldn't be farther from that, because but I believe him. It's really amazing. I think it's a gift he has, honestly. I think it's a gift.
Yeah. It's just a natural talent, kind of.
Exactly.
But in general, this idea that people at the top level don't get nervous, that's a myth. I mean,
That's
everybody pretty much does.
absolutely a myth. Oh my God. And I don't think if you ask them, they would tell you, no, I don't get nervous. I think people should ask them, because they will tell the truth. I don't think it's a bad thing to be nervous. I mean, at least not for me. And personally, I love it when I see, I can tell that big soloists are a little bit nervous at some point. Nobody can tell, of course. This is like an all nerdy musician talking now. But it's normal. Everybody gets nervous. Like,
yeah,
so?
Yeah. Just and Sophie Mutter gets nervous, probably.
Probably. I mean, she's just like,
she's been doing it forever. But
I mean, she's just unbelievable. I did a couple tours with her. I'm such a big fan. I admire her so much.
Yeah.
And so I played many concerts with her, so I get to see her backstage. And she's really really confident, really serious, but good vibes. She always says, so let's go on stage. This is no brain surgery. Like, nobody's gonna die from this, So it's also true, because sometimes we're like, oh my God, we put so much importance into something that should be, enjoyable for yourself. So I think she has a very healthy and very strong mind, very healthy relationship with her mind. She's an unbelievable performer. The last time I saw her live was just last summer in Salzburg, in the Festspiel house, and she played with was it with Divan Orchestra? I think so. She played Brahms concerto, and it was absolutely astonishing.
I know. Her tone is just the expressivity with which she plays. It's just the most expressive playing you ever heard. It's amazing.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, that's amazing insight though. So, but yeah, so you'll see people. You'll see people getting nervous backstage, but it's just how you deal with it. It's kind of funny too because the audience doesn't want you to be nervous. You don't want to be nervous, but still, it's a daily reality of life, right?
Yeah.
It's funny how that works, but I guess it's the fear of being judged and all that. So,
Of course.
yeah. And just lastly, I wanted to ask you about your compositions. You're a composer and an amazing composer, and I've heard your stuff. It's amazing. And where do these ideas come from for compositions? Do they just pop in your head?
There is a lot of everything. Sometimes it happens that I'm playing, and while I'm warming up, or I don't know, I play something, can be like 3-4 notes that I like, and then I go on my phone, I record the audio real quick, and then I continue practicing, and then at some point I put it in my studio. I have a home studio here at home that I'm building with the fees of my live performances. So music is feeding more music.
Amazing.
So I would put the video there, and then I would orchestrate it. That's how I approach more like the classical composing. And then there is the more electronic version of me that just starts with, with the MIDI, and then I open a library, digital library of sounds, and then I just I go a lot. Again, it's very similar to when I play viola. I have a specific sound that I want, and then I search for it, and when I find it, then there's the character of the song, and then I start from there. So it's such an amazing process, to be honest, because it's so different from classical, but in a way it's the same. It's crazy. The other day I had a session with another producer in Berlin. I'm trying to go as much as possible to studios because I want to learn from other producers and see more of that kind of world. And it amazed me how much working with this producer was like chamber music playing in a way. It was crazy. Beautiful experience.
Awesome.
Of course, many times like nothing comes out of there. It's just like experimenting together a little bit. But yeah, maybe one day, I guess many artists, this is how they make amazing songs. Like when it happens in the moment, maybe it's similar to this magic that I told you that you can feel on stage when you suddenly make a song. It's magic.
Yeah, you described that so beautifully. And there's one more thing I have to ask you because it just popped in my head. But in terms of practicing, do you think about hours of practicing? Does that tie into your whole discipline thing with going to the gym? Do you have to put in a certain number of hours, go through a certain number of exercises, or is it just you practice how much you need to and then it stops?
For me, hours are important for sure. Just because it gives me like a perspective. I know how much in shape I am depending on the hours I'm practicing. So I actually like measure with my phone.
Wow, you time yourself. Wow.
Yeah.
And how many hours is that?
Well, now it's not so much. I feel like it should be way more. But these days, when I've been a little bit sick, tired, but it's been 2 hours and a half. But at least I know that those 2 hours and a half, I was playing, because the moment I'm not playing, I stop. And whenever I don't do with timer, 2 hours and a half without timer, it can be like 4 hours, of your time. Because, I go to the toilet 1 second, or, I'm going to just answer this call real quick, or, I'm just going to scroll 2 minutes, Anyway, so I really like to see, I need to see what I did. I think a very solid practice would be anything between 3 and 4.5 per day for me. If I practice 4 hours a day with timer, I'm like in my top shape. 3 hours is good. 2.5 hours is maintaining, or like getting back into the flow after you've been sick, like now.
Amazing. And so that gives you the confidence when you go on stage. You know you're going to have the stamina to get through a performance that's stressful and everything. You need to put those hours in. It gives you an indication that you can do it. Yeah.
Yes, you absolutely need to. I need to. Maybe some people don't need as much practice. Again, it's completely personal because it's so much based on how you feel. Some people feel amazing on 1 hour of practicing. Some people need 7 hours of practicing. And all of that is valid. And it really... That's the thing. I think you shouldn't do what somebody else does. This is why I also...
Yeah.
It's because everybody's different and we all have different needs, and what works for you doesn't necessarily work for me and vice versa. I think it's good to hear everyone out and then make your own and experiment, because I've tried so many practice methods, practicing less, practicing more in the morning, practicing more in the afternoon. Like, it's so personal, Some people practice good in the night. I cannot. I do my best practice in the morning, 100%. Everything I don't do in the morning, it's just extra. Because then I'm so, like, I'm not tired, but I'm not as sharp as in the morning. So I'm super efficient in the morning. So I know things will run twice as quick. And in the afternoon, I know it's just going to be slower. So... And some people is the opposite. Some people they get super sharp at midnight. I don't know. It's just, It depends how you work.
But there is something about the sheer number of hours, right? Because, there are all kinds of practice hacks out there. You only need to practice half an hour a day. But does that give you the stamina? Do you know anybody that practices it only an hour a day or half hour a day and can really get world class? Or does it really, the hours are important, right?
Yeah, you need the hours. I mean,
you need the hours.
You can get away maybe one day practice 1 hour. You can get away with that one day.
One day.
But for top level soloists, all of the soloists that are right now in the world, like top, these people are putting in the hours. I can guarantee you.
Multiple hours a day. Yeah.
Multiple.
Yeah. I'm gonna cut this clip up and put it on Instagram because that needs to be heard. That's amazing. It's blowing my mind just hearing it from you. But
why? I'm so curious. Why?
Well, I think that there's a lot of people. They don't think about practicing. They only see the result, right? They only see the end product, but they don't see what goes into it a lot of times. So
my brother practices so much,
Really?
much. Like, and people are surprised. That people ask me also, how much does Pablo practice? He still practices as like back then, like when he was studying. He's a person that feels very comfortable with putting the hours. Actually, he's the one who taught me to practice with stopwatch. I do this because of him.
Mm-hmm. And how do you avoid? I mean, you're timing yourself on your phone. How do you avoid just grabbing the phone and going on your phone? You just got to. That's discipline, right?
Discipline again. Discipline, but the phone is so addictive. Oh my God, it's incredible. I hate it. I hate it that I'm on it so much. It's crazy. Yeah. Let's see. I don't know where all of this is going, to be honest. I've no idea.
I know. It's gonna be in your head. It's gonna be implanted in our heads pretty soon.
I think we will be able to see it, like contacts.
Yeah. I mean, what I've been doing is putting the phone out of the room and using something else, just the physical metronome. But you have more discipline than me. I think it's just I have to put it out of the room.
When I practice, I don't look at the phone. For sure not. Because I know if I stop, I stop.
Yeah.
Or what also works is if I stop, I put a 5-minute timer pausa. So when it sounds, it's like, okay, back to work.
Okay. And then you just log those out, those minutes later, and you add it all up and make sure you really practiced 4 hours or whatever it was. Yeah. And one more thing, does recording come into your process? Self-recording when you're preparing for a concerto? Do you record yourself and see how it sounds?
Every day,
Every
almost
day.
every day. I think it's so important. And people who don't record themselves, when they start recording themselves, they're shocked.
Yeah.
For bad, usually.
Mm-hmm.
Actually, it's quite tough. It's very tough to record yourself. It's so tough to listen to it. And actually, that's how I started doing Instagram professionally, because I would record myself and then I had this video and I was like, okay, maybe I don't hate this so much. And then I would post it, just like that.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's tough.
It's tough.
Yeah, it's tough.
It's very difficult to listen to yourself, I mean, at least for me, because if there is something that doesn't sound exactly how I want it, it's torture. It's torture.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Put in the hours. Put in the hours. And even so, yeah.
So,
I still haven't listened to this performance of the Schumann that I said that I really liked, and I had a very good experience on stage. I still didn't dare to listen to the recording, and I have it, and I have a good recording, and I'm not ready because I don't want to let go of this great memory that I have, because maybe I see the performance and I'm like, I didn't love that,
Yeah. So you're not ready to have your heart broken.
Not in that case. Normally, usually I do. I'm like, okay, let's get this over with. So more or less, usually it's exactly how I thought it was. And sometimes I like things more than I liked, but sometimes it can be like, oh, this was really nice. And then you listen to it and you're like, was it though?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so when you self-record, is that a small part of your practicing, or is it a large part of your practicing? Okay, just kind of at the end, maybe. Yeah.
It depends, because if I feel good, I sometimes want to double check, do I feel good and it sounds good? And then that's when I record.
Mm-hmm.
To get some external validation, since I'm not playing for anyone. I don't have a teacher anymore, and I don't really play for anyone. I do play for Yaman a lot. Yaman is my boyfriend.
Yeah.
He's a fantastic violinist, and we play for each other, and that helps a lot.
Mm-hmm. Does he get nervous on stage when he goes up there, piano fill?
Yeah, definitely. He's a human being. Yeah, he does. He does. We talk about it a lot. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's part of it.
Because, I mean, you think of, playing these New Year's Day concerts and, the whole world seeing that. It's amazing.
That's crazy. So many millions, right?
I know.
It's crazy.
It's unbelievable. And I don't know if he thinks about that. Does he think about numbers on, in terms of how many people are watching this? Or you just go out and do your thing. You're in a bubble.
I'm not so sure. But actually for that one, he's not very nervous. Actually, I always think he seems like he's enjoying. And then I ask him, yeah, it's good.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, for that one specific, I think the orchestra is quite having fun, because it's so traditional for them. I don't know.
Yeah.
Everybody's happy. You know what I mean? Everybody has like a good heart. I think if you be like a random date, like 15th of March, concert and millions watch it, which first of all, it would never happen because it's a random day, right?
Mm-hmm.
But maybe like if it was like the Super Bowl, I can imagine them getting super nervous. Like if, everybody's watching that and has like certain feelings. But in New Year's, 1st of January, everybody has like this like positive vibes, welcoming the New Year. So there's some beautiful energy there. So I don't think they get nervous because of that also a lot.
And it's not Mahler, it's just these waltzes, so maybe it's a little easier for them.
Exactly. It's easy music to listen, to play. Yeah, it's not Paganini Caprice, something like that.
And when you're playing in front of an audience, are you thinking about the people out there? Are you playing out to the audience? Are you just kind of in your own world and you're drawing the audience into you and you're not thinking about who's watching you?
That's a very good question as well, because there is I think you shouldn't be too much on your own world, because at the end, I want to connect. I want to connect, want to feel. I don't want to forget about them. I want to feel that there's people there, out there listening, actively listening. I don't remember who said this, but someone said this amazing thing of like, when you're playing a concert is the only time in your life when maybe you're playing for half an hour a concerto, and so many people at the same time are actively listening to you for 30 minutes. That never happens. Never in any other, So, what was the question?
I mean, are you in your own bubble, or are you playing out to the audience? Or both?
Now, honestly, I think it goes in waves. But now I'm trying as much as possible to play for the audience, being in my own body. That makes no sense, what I just said, but it's something like this.
Yeah.
I just don't know how to describe it. But for sure, I'm trying to play for them and making them part of it.
Gotcha.
Trying to enjoy. So they enjoy with me. And it's about exchanging energies, to be honest, a performance, a lot.
Great. Well, I think I asked you enough questions. I just had to get everything in because it's like I've been thinking about this stuff for such a long time, and amazing
These
answers.
were such a good questions.
Appreciate
Honestly,
it.
I loved all of your questions.
Oh, thanks. Yeah, I mean, it's just stuff that I'm dealing with, thinking about. So it cleared a lot up. I should pay you at this point, but it's amazing stuff. So thank you so much, Sarah. Appreciate it. Thanks for being here. Thanks for doing it. And
Of course. No, it was a pleasure. This was really fun. Thank you so much, Nick.
Thank you.